You're listening to the Learn Hypnosis podcast with Jason Linett and Richard Nongard. Build the confidence you need to work professionally as a hypnotist. Whether you're new to hypnosis or looking to sharpen your skills, join us live in Las Vegas in August of 2020. Learn more now at vegashypnosistraining.com. Here they are, Jason and Richard.
I am Dr. Richard Nongard, and I have been looking forward to this edition of the Learn Hypnosis podcast because, Jason, I have a question. It's been driving me crazy. Is it niche or niche?
So it's that word that's spelled N-I-C-H-E, and it's where parts of the world say niche and other parts say niche. I think that really matters. What really matters is we use the word niche because it rhymes with rich.
That would be my idea, too. You know, over the years, I have niched down and gotten rich. It's actually pretty cool. The most amazing thing is that it's really a contrarian philosophy. People think that if I promote myself with a special niche, that what's going to end up happening is the rest of the people aren't going to come to see me. And early on, I learned that by niching down, by becoming an expert in my area, I ended up getting calls and referrals for everything else and could practice as a generalist while representing myself as a specialist.
Which, to have this conversation where I know part of our audience are people who are just getting into hypnosis and looking at, what they can do with a possible career as they go through our upcoming training, which again, all the details are at vegashypnosistraining.com. But this really pops up as one of those most common topics about, do I become the generalist and work with a little bit of everything, or do I really break it down and pick a few things? And I think the real answer is that you could go either direction. I briefly mentioned my style over the years is, in terms of the business, it's described by two images, which we layer on top of each other. One is the old-timey wagon wheel, where there's the hub of the wheel and there's all the spokes that are going out. So the hub of my local business is Virginia Hypnosis, the brick and mortar location where I see clients, or even thanks to video platforms around the world. So those spokes going out are all those individual things that I do well. And the other image with the wagon wheel is that of a dog whistle. Because let's assume that you've trained your dog to respond to a dog whistle, and you go to the dog park and you blow the whistle. You don't want every dog to come running. You just want your dog to come running. So by having that specific message, I think from a marketing standpoint, a lesson I learned the hard way early on is that if you try to sell to everybody, you very often end up selling to nobody. And the biggest benefit of niching down, or perhaps a little bit later in this session this week, I'll share the principles of what I call micro niching and getting even more specific, is that if you can define the needs of the audience of whom you wish to speak to, you now know what questions they're asking, what concerns they may have, and you're better able to provide that service to help them create that empowered result through the process of professional hypnosis.
One of the other ways that people create their niches is obviously what it is they're passionate about. There was a person who took a certification course I did not too long ago who came to my certification class because of her own experience using hypnosis in her own recovery from Lyme disease. And that was what she was passionate about helping other people with. And so while she practiced as a generalist, she became an expert in representing herself in that niche. And she's my go-to person in 2020 for Lyme disease and hypnosis. There are other people, Roger Moore, and weight loss. He lost over 100 pounds years ago, and he is the go-to authority in hypnotic weight loss in our profession. And like I said, I smoked a lot of cigarettes a long time ago, and I'm kind of the go-to guy when it comes to addiction in hypnosis. And niching down, there are some mindset changes I think that need to take place.
Before you share those mindsets, I want to highlight something that you just said, which otherwise may have just been passed over, which is that the brand new student of hypnosis may have that concern about, do I need to pick something? Do I need to pick this, or do I pick that? And I think you have a story similar to something that I discovered over the years, which was that when I began seeing clients, I was thinking as I went to one of my first trainings, I'm going to work with kids. I'm going to work with teenagers. They respond so well to hypnosis. And I think you've said something similar, that eventually when I had my own kids, I didn't want to spend so much time with yours, uh, which I still see a lot of kids and teenagers, but because of the specific hours I keep, it's maybe one or two a month now. When meanwhile, I had no plans of being one of the guys that you go to for public speaking confidence with hypnosis. And now that's one of the main things that I see. So it's perfectly okay for those of you that are new to this. This is the point I wanted to make, that as you get into this, you may either have a specific burning desire that you want to follow, but be open to the idea that down this pathway of moving into this profession of hypnosis, you might discover what it is that truly becomes that calling, that you're that go-to person to be that resource.
And the other thing is, we're not limited to one niche. We could have multiple niches. So when I opened the Tulsa Hypnosis Center, my idea was that I would be the niche guy. I would be the stop smoking guru. I was the person you went to quit smoking. And what was interesting is I went to buy some radio advertising so that I could get people to come to my business, of course, because anytime you are running a business, you are running a business, and you have to advertise. And so I decided I would buy some radio ads. And I discovered that radio advertising was really, really expensive on the radio stations that I listened to. But there was an AM sports station in town, and advertising on it was dirt cheap. In fact, they said if you buy the ads on the station, we'll even give you your own talk show. It wasn't a full talk show on the sports station, but what they meant was every Monday you'll be our go-to guy for sports performance psychology and that sort of thought. And our host will interview every Monday at 4:15 on the big sports show. And so of course it was the only station I could afford to buy advertising on, so I did. And I got the opportunity to do the sports show. The ironic thing about it is this. Other than being on the golf team in high school and being on the swim team in high school, I was not a participant in any sports or athletics. I was the last one picked for PE. I've never watched a football game in my entire life. Actually, I take that back. When I was 16, my uncle took me to a Chicago Bears game. It was so damn cold that I spent the entire time underneath wherever he was sitting, because he was into the game, smoking cigarettes so that I wouldn't get caught by him, and trying to keep warm underneath. And so when I bought the advertising on the sports radio station, I thought to myself, well, this is absurd. I don't know anything about sports. What am I going to talk about on the show? So I would literally have to go read the sports page, a couple days beforehand, and figure out kind of what questions were going to be asked or what point I could make. But even though sports were not something that was a part of my own personal life, the skills of helping people to achieve their greatest level of potential is what hypnotists do. And so I was able to become the sports performance guy, and I had a chance to work with professional athletes. I had a chance to work with top tier amateur athletes, and it was really pretty fascinating for me. And oddly enough, I ended up becoming the sports performance guy out of necessity.
There's a catchphrase I've got around that, which is that there only really needs to be one expert in the room. And I mean this in a very positive way, that we as the practitioner can be the expert on the process of professional hypnosis, and our client can be the expert on the thing they would wish to address. So by a fluke of media, I had an article printed about me nearly 8 or 9 years ago. And Northern Virginia area is a lot of smaller cities that are right next to each other. So at that time, my office was in Alexandria, and they decided, let's print this article in Centerville, Virginia, which is like 20 miles west. That way it won't look like advertising. And which was a great thing that they did, because a gymnastics coach read that article, and still to this day now, I can track at least 1 or 2 gymnasts a month with a fear of flipping backwards that goes back to that original article and referral source. And, the first few of them, I would say, look, I'm going to call stuff by the wrong name, and nowadays I learned this tip from a hypnotist, Laura King, of, hey, what do I type into YouTube so you can show me what it is that you're trying to do? And over time, we developed that skill set of helping people in specific categories. I've worked with, similar to your story, I've worked with golfers who may have asked me, how often do you golf? And my answer is, I'm the one, when I'm playing putt-putt with my 6-year-old and my 8-year-old, I'm the one requesting we don't keep score because they're they're beating me. But you're right. We can pick multiple niches. We can pick multiple specialties. And this is where at the event we've got coming up, which you can get the details on at vegashypnosistraining.com, we will spend some time about, helping to go through that process of picking that specialty. But at the same time, too, what good are these techniques unless we've actually got the person, the client in front of us? And this is where if I'm going to go to a networking event, if I'm going to get up and give a presentation talking about hypnosis, the more specific I can be in that delivery about this one ideal client. Some of the best advice I've picked up in recent years is that the ultimate sales conversation is a sidewalk that has one ending. So I'll get up and I'll talk about the public speakers, or I'll get up, and I specialize in this too, I'll talk about the stop smoking clients. Or at another event, I'll get up and I'll talk about weight loss. Or here's the time that I picked a different niche based on my audience. It was a chamber of commerce, and I realized there were 12 dentists in the room. So I got up and I talked about helping people with teeth grinding issues. But a moment ago, you mentioned mindset, and I know you have a bit of a template to follow in terms of how do we shift that mindset of picking that niche.
People are afraid if they have a niche, if they represent themselves, that they're going to reduce their calls. The first mindset change is that niches don't reduce calls. They actually increase a potential client's confidence to reach out to you as an expert. The other marketing or mindset change, I think, is that niches are a marketing concept. They're not an academic concept. You don't need to be the most seasoned or experienced practitioner on the planet to begin offering a niche. You need to be confident in your skills as a hypnotist. Newcomers to therapy actually find by niching, it's a great way to build confidence with a group of clients that they know they're going to work well with or relate to. One of the other mindset changes is that creating distinct advertising for a niche is what makes advertising work. If you have a billboard, for example, that says, "Come to Richard's Hypnosis Clinic. I'll help you stop smoking, lose weight, stop chasing cars, relieve anxiety, overcome procrastination. Call now." And I list everything on there because I'm afraid if I don't, and the billboard was expensive, that I'm going to miss those calls. That's not true. By creating distinct websites, distinct business, I have probably 7 different business cards. I have a business card for stop smoking. I have a business card that's generic. I have a business card for my speaking. I have a business card for my leadership development trainings. I have a business card for my weight loss work. And so by creating distinct websites or business cards, or at least pages that focus on these niches, you actually you actually create broader appeal. And then I think the fourth mindset change is that niche marketing is easy, right? And so niche marketing, I think, actually requires a little more work. It requires more calls, more blogs, more letters, more public speaking, more video, because to establish yourself as an expert requires a body of evidence behind that. So I did the radio show on sports performance. I did the radio advertising on sports performance. But then I created a series of sort of do-it-yourself self-hypnosis sessions focusing on the sports I was familiar with, swimming, and golfing, and some of the other things that I was passionate about, even personal performance. And by doing that, people saw, hey, Richard really can. I might be a professional rodeo star, but Richard seems to have an attitude or a spirit about him that I think could benefit me. Like, I love what you just said. We don't need 2 experts in the room. They can be an expert at bull riding. I can be an expert at personal performance hypnosis.
Which, to highlight exactly what you just said there's something cool about getting really specific with that target market that you're looking for. And this is where, for those of you looking to turn this into a career, having gone through our upcoming training and now positioning yourself as that professional hypnotist and doing the work of hypnosis, people often will pop up with different, possible business opportunities to be in front of your clients. And I'll give you 2 thoughts to share on this, which is, I learned a while ago the concept of a dream audience. And a dream audience is where your audience is mostly made up of people who are looking for the service that you're about to offer them. So there I was at the event that I mentioned with a bunch of dentists. So of course, I chose to talk about how I can be integrative in the approach of dentistry. Or here comes a health fair, which these things are around all the time. And the advice I often give for that is exactly, Richard, what you just mentioned in terms of a little bit more work of the content marketing as we niche it down, which I'd say be the expert, not the vendor. So I don't want to be there just as the guy standing behind a table, handing out brochures and business cards and whatever swag bag items I've decided. And yes, that's coming from the person who about 2 years ago gave away 800 purple fidget spinners at the HypnoThoughts convention. But instead, I want to be there as the expert. I want to be there talking about a specific thing that through a little bit of research, I have found that audience is looking for. The real benefit to this as well is that there are markets inside of markets inside of markets. So in a previous episode in this series, you mentioned working with people who need to lose more than half their body weight in terms of weight loss. And that's a very different category than just representing weight loss. I've got which that's a lot of what I see. A specific category that I kind of dip my toes into just in terms of my own personal fitness are bodybuilders and fitness competitors who are leaning down for competition while still trying to maintain their muscle mass. And that's not an eat this, don't eat that, carbs are bad kind of world. This is where we're getting ultra specific with the macronutrients, and they're coming in with nearly the menu of what they want to do. And because now, if they call me, I can speak their language. I know what their specific needs are. And I don't believe in a competitive mindset, but it's where if they reach out to me now and they call someone else, no one else is speaking in that specific language.
One of the things I'm really looking forward to in our upcoming training, which people can find more out about that was a tongue twister, at Vegas, hypnosistraining.com, is that people might come to the training and they might not know what niche would be really useful for them. They can ask us those questions. We'll be more than happy to answer those questions. And of course, the online training component that follows our live training in Vegas goes into introducing several different niches. So when people finish our course, they're going to have not only the skills to help people make change, but they're going to know the specific direction that's going to be best for them. They'll get my insight, they'll get your insight, and they'll get the course materials to complement that. And so I'm really looking forward to this opportunity to help those who are new to hypnosis get certified by a recognized association, increase their skill level, and discover the niches that are going to be most beneficial both to them and the clients that they can work with.
Because, hey, the niches are in the riches, or the riches are in the niches, or both directions work. And this event is happening in August of 2020, just before the HypnoThoughts Live convention. And again, as Richard mentioned, check us out and join us in Las Vegas, vegashypnosistraining.com.
This has been the Learn Hypnosis podcast. Get certified as a professional hypnotist now at vegashypnosistraining.com.